session. Thank you for allowing us to take that short break to reset our stuff for recording. So at this time, we are going to take comments from the public regarding the taxes. What I do ask, you state your name and your address. Limit your comments to 30 minutes. Once you present it, we ask that unless you're specific.
Is your microphone on?
Nope, it is now. I'll repeat that. Everybody heard me though, because I got such a big mouth, but they can't hear it in the back. But what we do ask is once you've presented that, unless you're asked specific questions to readjust the council from the council, that you do not come back up to the podium after you've made your statement. So basically, we're giving everybody one opportunity to come forward, address the council, state your concerns, whatever those may be with regards to that. Again, as you heard me earlier, I will allow the council to ask questions back to you at the end if they so choose, and then we'll proceed in that process. So again, name, address, one person at a time, approach the podium, and we'll move through this. So with that, we're ready to take comments from the group. Just come forward, state your name and your address.
My name is Frank Tunzar. I live at 29555 Percheron Drive in Breezy Point. And I had to make a few adjustments to my discussion here, but Patrick said, no, we don't get the big picture. Yes, I do get the big picture. My taxes have gone up 258% in 14 years. It's too much. At that rate, I will have to leave the city. I'd like us to be more like Cross Lake. Okay. They're high, they're rising too fast, 28% for me this year. And for example, in this inflationary period, we should be watching our expenses. And these are real numbers. My natural gas bill is going up 42% this year. Taxes, 28%. My medical insurance is going up 19%. So when you spend our money, you need to be very careful that it's, in my opinion, for a legitimate city function. Now is not the time to be spending on discretionary items. A lot of people have this problem. Now, I was using the disc golf course as an example here, and I really had to think again after Shane's presentation. First of all, I was very disappointed that a Breezy Point resident couldn't make that pitch. Who are we benefiting from this golf course? Private business and everybody else all over the area? You know, if it was, it's just an example. But this is an example of something I think the city's fine to do, but it should be funded by the recipients. According to the numbers he left, 150 people in 3 golf leagues. Most of them, I guess, are outside the city. 400 people on the Facebook page. I'm guessing most, or a good number, are outside the city. So, as I said, this is an example. I think we should use user fees to fund these kinds of things. If the businesses benefit so well, maybe they should kick in as well. I did have one note, one question. There's no money in the budget for the community center for next year. So how is any activity on that going to be funded?
Are you done with your, because if you're done, then I'll answer that question.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tenzar. Really, the answer to that question is basically what was done this past year was a feasibility study, just to look at the feasibility of the potential of having a community center here in Breezy Point. And at this point, as you heard Patrick mention in his presentation, the next step in the process is for the task force and even the council to look at that and say, okay, we've got a feasibility study. Is this something we even want to move forward with? So I think there's been a lot of talk out there about that the community center is a done deal. And that's couldn't be further from the truth. We're so barely into the beginning stages of it. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussion and talk amongst the task force members as well as the council as to what this even looks like. And then if it were to even move forward, and the council is free to join in on this as well, other comments, but how to pay for it is going to be a big discussion. And what's that look like and what form that takes. So I think to answer your question, that's why there's no money in the budget this year, because the money was budgeted last year for a feasibility study, and that's what we did, and that's where it stands right now for now the task force as well as the city to take a look at that and go, just what do we want to do if we even want to think about doing something. So that's the answer to that question. I don't know if other council members have comments to his presentation or not. No?
None whatsoever. Very succinct.
Kind of the, make sure I'm on, kind of the philosophy we had when we started that community center is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We knew that this was going to be something that's a 8-10 year project, but if we don't start somewhere,
You don't ever start.
you never start.
Exactly.
So,
And in actuality, the money for the feasibility study was actually set aside over a couple years. In other words, we didn't take it all out of the budget at one time. The philosophy is that we would like to put money away for a lot of these large projects so that we don't have to bond for them. When you get extraordinary projects like the community center, like the Bushman Road project, you're going to have to bond, okay? We just don't have that much liquid cash to deal with. But on a lot of these other projects, if we can avoid having to go out and borrow the money, let's do that. But we start setting ahead. That's one of the accolades that I have to give to our public works. We have a capital improvement project that goes out many, many, many years. And we're putting money away incrementally every year so that when those big expenses come up, we just pull out our checkbook and we write a check for it and pay cash. We don't have to, spend a lot of money to go out and, because it costs money to bond. It takes a lot of money just to get the bond, get the loan. So, again, the fiscal responsibility that the city has been putting forth is very, very good. We are not spending money, hit or miss. All this money is actually set aside years ahead of time so that we can pay cash for it, and we have a lot of reserves.
and I'll build upon that. Bushman Road, that was talked about back in 2009.
Yes.
If we would have had the forefront to start thinking about putting money aside from it, it would have been be able to have a lot of cash paid out of pocket right off the bat. So,
Likewise, the community center has been talked about for over 20 years.
And
Just if we would have put away, several $1,000s a year for a community center, we wouldn't be talking about a huge bill for it. We would have the money already set aside for it. And that's the philosophy that we have been moving towards for the last several years, is to start putting that money away and not having to bond and borrow money.
Which adds to what we're looking at the budget now that we're looking at approving tonight, is that money that's being put away for road projects, while it's Bush, and it's also other future projects that we're looking at.
Right.
So again, we're continuing with that process of looking at how do we plan for the future so that we don't have to be reactionary, which is being proactive. Councilmember Bakken.
Just one quick comment to piggyback on Councilman Lillihei's 20 years. I've been involved in 5 comprehensive plans here, 5 years each. The last 4 that he mentioned, our surveys and the people that came to talk to us when we had it over at the Riverside School there, they predominantly want a center. That goes way back, folks, 20 years, as Tom alluded to. So it's incumbent on me as a counselor to look and find ways to do that and answer that request. And I think this council is doing a superb job.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else here that wishes to address the council at this time? Please come forward. State your name and your address. We got-
Go ahead.
I just,
Ladies first.
thank you. I am Nancy Waller. My husband Steve and I live on 29779 Suffolk Drive in Breezy Point. First, I want to say, this is my first experience here, and I'm really impressed with you guys. And I've had a lot of questions cleared up. I also am proud to pay my taxes for things like law enforcement and the fire in our streets. And that's what it's all about, folks, is that's how we take care of each other. The other thing are these discretionary thing. We don't even have sidewalks, and Ranchette and Dove are dead zones for the golf carts or people just wanting to walk. But I appreciate what you all are doing. I appreciate our law enforcement. But I do appreciate you taking care of us by not raising our taxes very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Kirk Allen, 29612 Percheron Drive. So I really appreciate seeing this presentation that the city administrator put together. And so I pull out my calculator, boom, 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 and I'm seeing a 4.7% increase based on your property values. But my increase at my residence has gone up 24% with virtually no improvements done to my home or anything, but I'm still seeing my taxes increased 24%. And getting back by like Frank said, everything's getting more expensive these days. Everybody's aware of the inflation going up, and then somewhere there's a big difference here between the 4.7% increase that was in the presentation, and if we're all having similar increases like I am, where's all this extra money go? It's just, the math just isn't working. I've been in engineering for 35 years. I can guarantee you I've never had a pay increase anywhere remotely close to 24% in my whole career. Boy, if the city wants to hire me and give me a 24% increase to do engineering, sign me up. But yeah, something ain't right there. I'm not sure where the extra money's going, but that's a big increase. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, do we have the ability to pull up tax statements to look at these?
We do.
You know, we have claims of 28% and whatnot. Can we
Yep.
look at those right now?
Yeah, we actually, it would take just a little second. I think Patrick could pull them up, but it'd take him just a little bit.
I'll just take a quick gander real quick.
Well, I sent mine.
So yeah, so I'll read it here, and maybe Patrick's pulling it up. So you're okay with me reading what we have here?
Go right ahead.
Okay,
Information.
just making sure. So yes, so I do see your taxes for 2021 was $1,155.16, and that the proposed for 2022 is $1,429, correct? Correct. 44 cents. But one thing that you do need to realize, again, is the valuation that the county assesses. So your home was a taxable value of $253,000 back in 2021. It is now worth $300,000 to the county.
I understand that. My issue is that the city's portion of my taxes are going up 24%.
They are, because your valuation went up. How much did your valuation go up? Do we calculate
So
that?
if the city's doing that citywide 20+% increase on everybody's taxes, that's a huge increase. Or is there a big chunk of the city that are getting their taxes, a decrease in their tax amount?
I think it's important to understand the key piece that Councilmember Maroney talked about, and that's the valuation. So the county and the county assessor makes the valuation of all the properties in the city, every one of them, every year. And they base it on current market values, what selling points of houses of similar place, where they're at, where they're located. Are you on a lake? Are you in here? What improvements are there with it? And that's then what they use to determine how much that valuation goes up. And so it's all leveled on that. And that's why I think it's really important. And it's challenging because we get these statements in April. way back at the beginning of the year that says, hey, this is the proposed increase in value of your property, and it comes from the county, and then we have a meeting a special meeting in April for the citizens to be able to come in and challenge that valuation. And that took place last April. We had the county assessor here to talk about why they choose or why they determine it. So I guess the part that I think is important to understand is that not a lot of that is in our hands. We don't determine what those valuations are. It's the county that determines those. And that's the challenge, I think, that everybody has. And I would say, no, probably everybody didn't get a 20% increase throughout the city. That didn't happen. I can tell you that my value went up very little this year of my property. But I can tell you last year it went up quite a bit. So it's all about how they determine that valuation at that time. And that's really what makes the lion's share when you start looking at your taxes and when they go up. That's where it's coming from. That's where that increase goes. And if you look at your taxes, Crow Wing County's taxes went up that you pay to them as well as you pay to the city.
I agree.
Yeah, so, Patrick.
Just a reminder, when they sit down, their comments can't be heard. I got a note from Deb, so
Sorry,
just a reminder.
apologize. So just some, something back from that. All right, moving on, next. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council at this time? Come forward. Name and address, please.
Well, I have two addresses, which is part of my problem. I have a home in Cross Lake, but I also own a property here in Breezy Point.
Okay.
And I found it interesting.
Could I get your name,
Sure.
please, ma'am?
It's Mary Jo Newman.
Okay, thank you. And could
And-
you give us the address of your property here in Breezy Point?
Sure, 30603 Shasta Drive.
Thank you.
I found it interesting when you were talking about your property taxes being $1,100 for a home that's worth $300,000. I have,
Just to clarify, that was city portion only.
okay. I have here a statement for the property that my son has lived in as a full-time resident since 2016. It's only worth $189,400, and our taxes this year on that property are $1,960. We're caught in an unusual situation where at the time we purchased that property, it was a seasonal property. It was uninhabited, it wasn't inhabitable, and it took us 4 months to get it to a point where someone could live in it. And our son has lived in it full-time since then. Unfortunately, nobody informed us that at the time of purchase, we needed to let them know this was going to be a full-time residence. So since 2016, we've been paying taxes on a seasonal basis for a full-time resident. Our son lives and works in the community. I would like to know how we get out of this situation, because we're paying an unfair amount based on what everybody else is complaining about how the taxes are going up. I would like to complain about unfair levies in the first place. There's no way that this property is worth that kind of money. Everybody else is getting a tax rate for even a homestead. We just want a year-round residence designation. So if you can advise me on how to go about making that happen, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I think what you would do, thank you for your comments, I would encourage you to come into the city. Go ahead, Patrick.
Everything you actually said about going to the county, because they take care of all that.
Yeah.
They will
I know.
actually help you with, because it's,
It is
you're
county.
probably,
Land
you said
services.
I
seasonal.
know.
You can't be heard there, so going backwards, going forward, you can file for homestead, let them know your son is living there. And then also, but. Okay, then we'll talk. We will talk tomorrow. If you give me a call tomorrow, we'll call and I'll find out who you talked to and find out why that's not true.
I would appreciate that, thank you.
I think the point that Patrick was trying to make is, if you go to land services, they're the ones that will adjust the status of your property. They
I don't
cannot,
believe they'll go backwards though, Tom.
yeah, they
They'll go-
cannot go backwards. Okay,
No,
so they
what
can't
they,
do
what they
anything in the
actually
past.
told us was that we needed to change it at the time of purchase. Unfortunately, nobody told us that at the time of purchase.
You can change it any time.
Yeah, I don't,
They,
I've never
they said
heard
it
of
was a
that.
Breezy Point
On a
issue, which
homestead?
is why I'm here.
No.
So here's
we
what
don't
I,
accept-
again,
You
so
need
we
to
don't
talk.
Yeah.
prolong this, I would
Right.
encourage you, either call or contact Patrick tomorrow or come in and see him. He'll make a call down to Crow Wing County for you on your behalf and get to the bottom of that. I think you were given some misinformation.
I do too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Never heard of it.
Are there others who wish to address the council at this time? Oh,
Hi.
yep, nope, that's okay. No, go ahead, you're up there.
You beat
Name and address.
My name is Bill Johnson. I live on 29572 Percheron Drive. I agree with what's already been said, and anything you can do to watch the spending, especially in this economy that's going crazy with inflation. But being you're talking about road projects, I'm wondering how come the connection road from Ranchette Drive to Sunset Valley Road has never, it just gets patched. What,
It's another one of those road projects that need to be attended to, and it really comes down to, when the city looks at road projects, what are the priorities? What are the ones that we need to do? But absolutely, I think you heard Patrick make the comment in his presentation today that that money that's being now starting to be set aside for potentially the Bushman Road project, if it moves forward, and other future projects, because we have to start getting a handle on these road projects. And you heard him make the comment, because they're stacking up. That's an example of one that's stacking up. It's not the only one. And so we're trying to start to get a handle on some of that so that we can start putting some money aside to try and address those situations. I understand where you're coming from. I've driven it myself. I understand your points.
Yeah,
And
I mean-
well put. And that's an important thing, is roads. So those are, if you look at spending money within the city, roads, public safety, other things, those are very important things. And I agree with you on that. So,
yeah, and I mean, the school buses go down there, it's like,
I know.
it's a crazy
I know.
road.
yeah, and it's not the only one.
Yep, and just a
all.
comment,
Thank you.
we just got done completing a study that looked at all of the roads in the city of Breezy Point and prioritized those roads that are the most important, need to get work done as soon as possible. And that's what the mayor was alluding to, as far as we have these road projects stacking up, and they have a priority. You know, some are gonna be a higher priority, and I don't know, Joe, do you know what road were you talking about again?
It connects Ranchette Drive with Sunset Valley Road.
Where does that one?
Paved portion of Thrain Drive,
Oh, so that's Thrain Drive? Okay.
yeah. Right where it crosses the swamp, it has base issues and it moves and heaves.
Okay. And so that's one of those projects that is going to be a major project to do. So if we have to do that, because it probably has to be, you think probably has to be rebuilt?
Yes, it would need a
Okay. I haven't driven it in a long time.
drastic,
Yeah. So that would be one that we need to set aside a lot of money for, and it would obviously be a little bit lower priority because we can't afford it right now.
You're welcome.
Jerry Schroden, Breezy Point Timeshare. My question was a little bit answered, but I work in agribusiness and we do lots and lots of cash flows and projections. And with numbers a lot bigger than the cities. And I'm also a member of the task force. And one of the things that always weighs on my mind is the macro numbers. And a number I want an answer to, and I know it's dependent upon interest, but a number we need to kind of know to make my mind work right is per $1 million of bonding in this city, what is the impact for residential and what is the impact for commercial per $1 million? Because, we're looking at a Bushman Road project, it's gonna be multi-million dollars, and if we get to going further along with the community center, that's gonna be millions of dollars, and some of that will have to be bonded on both sides.
Right.
So, just for an easy, real fast beta analysis or whatever, or meta, I think meta is the right word. The cost per $1 million of bonded money is a number I'd like to have, and maybe have that in writing, because I got my memory not as good as it used to be.
Well, and I thank you for the question, and I think that's going to be determined as we move forward with these projects.
Well, I'm not worried about the cost of the project. I just want to know what $1 million worth of bonding in the city of Breezy Point does to.
What it looks like?
What it looks like.
Okay.
And that doesn't make any difference what project it is. $1 million of bonding is $1 million of bonding, and it's going to cost X amount of dollars at a certain interest rate. I understand that.
We'll take that in, and we'll see if we can work with city staff to maybe potentially come up with a number to be able to
Yeah.
provide.
Or some kind of a real big chart that
Sure.
gives us a spread.
Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I guess I don't want to leave false implications. I mean, that will happen at the time that we do the
I know,
project.
yeah.
It's premature to give you that number today, because
Right.
we don't have a project to do. We have to pay our consultants to give us that analysis.
That was my point
You
originally.
and Rebecca, we met with our
Yes.
financial consultant this summer, and they said, that's when we get into the details, but
Right.
that was going to be a couple years out.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was trying to refer to earlier. We won't know that until we know the actual nuts and bolts and what's going to happen,
Well-
and we actually have the project. Because realize, the Bushman Road project has not been approved.
I understand that.
So once that happens, or once we know what that looks like, that's when the bonding is going to have to take place. It's kind of like, no pun intended, but rubber hits the road.
I understand that. But at the same time, we know where there should be some numbers someplace that tell us if we bond $1 million, the heck with the project. If we bond $1 million, what's that cost today?
But there's so many.
That's
Is it a 10-year
real-time,
bond?
that's real-time numbers, that's today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't speculate 2 years down the road.
We don't
Jerry.
need to speculate 2 years down the road if we have a starting point.
Well, you could then
But that
get
starting
a
point will
bid.
change.
Well, what if the starting point?
Potentially could change. We don't know what that starting point
I
is at this point because we haven't even got there yet.
I know that, but
So it's a very speculative number that you're being asked to provide, and that's something that can't be done when it comes to bonding. It has to
well,
be
all the
based on
budgeting and
actual
cash flows that I'm involved with sometimes go 4, 6, 8, 10 years down the road.
Oh.
And we have an about on what it costs to borrow money.
numbers.
And
That's not how our projects work.
Yeah, if I can interject here, I think Jerry, what Jerry is asking is, in a generic situation, if you are going to be bonding $5 million over a period of 20 years, what is going to be the yearly impact when you factor in the principal and the interest?
Correct.
To the city? And that's what he's asking.
That's what I'm asking.
And that is irrespective of project. That is just a
Yes.
standard project management calculation that should be very straightforward to do. It's not a problem
Yeah.
to come up with a number like that. But it's essentially meaningless because it does
That's
not
nebulous, yeah.
take into account a lot of the costs of.
I understand all of
developing
that,
money.
but-
Yeah, that's a number that could be, but it's, like I say, it's kind of a meaningless number.
well, yeah, but still, it
But
is a
it's a
generic
guideline.
number and it's a starting point.
Yeah, it's a starting point, it's a
You know,
guideline.
I deal with a lot of young business people in the agri community, and they're looking, everybody's looking to
Yeah.
be around 5 and 10 years from now.
Yeah, and there's.
And we got to start looking at borrowing capacity and also income requirements to cover that.
Right,
So I think it's a legitimate question. What is a generic number at?
yeah.
I think you stated it best, Tom.
Right, and there's, you get into project management type of speak, and you can talk about the present value and the future value,
Yeah.
and take all that stuff into account.
But
The project management that I've
what is the
done-
number today? That's
what-
the
yeah,
number I'm looking
What's
at.
it gonna cost you today if you were gonna move
That's- yeah.
forward?
And I think
Yeah.
my 3 minutes are up.
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council at this time regarding taxes? All right. Hearing none, I now pronounce the hearing closed. The next part of this is to actually look at adopting the resolution number 22-2021 for the 2022 budget. Do I have a motion from the council to approve this resolution as proposed?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Bakken. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Councilmember Ball. Is there any further discussion from the council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Resolution has been adopted for the 2022 budget. Moving on, 6C, approve Minnesota Lawful Gambling LG 214 premises permit for Billy's Bar and Grill at Breezy Point. Do I have a motion from the council to approve this permit?
So moved.
Second.
I have Councilmember Bakken with the first, Councilmember Maroney with the second. Discussion by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 6B, Sourcewell Board of Directors nomination. I'll make this simple. Is there anybody here on the council who wishes to be nominated to serve on the Sourcewell Board?
Can I nominate somebody?
Well, if they would accept the nomination, you could nominate somebody from the council as well, but I think that you'd want them to accept the nomination, otherwise.
Then I won't make a fool out of myself. He knows where that was going to.
Is there anybody?
I would,
I would nominate Michael. I think he's looked at this in the past, and I think he would be a very good candidate.
Are you interested?
I would be interested.
Second. Got out of it.
Do you have batteries working?
I agree. Excellent.
We don't need a motion on it, just basically,
Oh,
we could work through with Michael filling out the nomination
Right.
form and submitting it, so if you're willing to do that, Chris?
Yeah, I would just have to check with my employer to make sure there's no conflict of interest, but yeah, if, I would be honored.
That's management.
I didn't turn it on. Green light.
For the record, I might have to check with my wife too.
That's what you call true upper management. Okay, so thank you, Michael, for taking that on. It's great to hear that somebody's interested in serving, because I think that's a really great thing for our council to have somebody serving on that board.
agreed.
So,
And
Great organization.
Michael's a
It'd be an honor to be
wonderful
part of it.
candidate.
absolutely. All right. Moving on, 6E, approve contract revisions with building official and city planner. Patrick, did you have any comments to make regarding this, or you?
This has been discussed. We'd ask that the city council authorize the modifications to the contracts as written.
Perfect. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this revision?
So move.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Maroney, second from
Second
Councilmember
there.
Ball. Is there any discussion by the council on this? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 6F, approve purchasing land adjacent to City Hall. I know Patrick has a little something for us on this, though.
That's been included in your packet, or I'm sorry, not in your packet, but in your handouts today. And I'll give a copy to the newspaper. The parcel is identified as PID of 10161030. And I've attached a photo. It's approximately 8,000 square feet, a little larger than that. Has an assessed value of $3,000. The property owner approached the city indicating a willingness to sell. This has been our process to either through tax forfeiture or through the buying process, accept these. I would ask that you authorize that. The city is allowed only to purchase at what we have as appraised value or assessed value from the county. I would note that the tax records show that she paid substantially more for that. So that being said, all you're doing is authorizing the $3,000 payment and thanking her for the donation. She and the IRS and her accountant do the donation process.
Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hawkins, second from Councilmember Lillehei. Is there any discussion by the council before voting?
No, great addition since it's a
Yeah,
budding.
we've done this in the past, and it's up to them to
Yeah.
do the creative accounting for their donation.
I would agree.
Just thanks for the donation.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the donation. We very much are appreciative of that. All right, hearing no other further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, item 6G, approve resolution for additional ARAP funds. It's resolution 23-20021. Basically, it's a resolution to accept the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund established under the American Rescue Plan Act. The city would receive an additional $4,180.78 from the American Rescue Plan supplemental distribution to non-entitlement cities on November 22nd, 2021. So this is like the other funds that we have accepted in the past, used specifically in certain areas. So do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Councilmember Maroney, second.
Second?
Councilmember Lillehei. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolutions? Abstentions? Resolution passed. Thank you. 6H, approve resolution for early redemption of existing debt. All right, Patrick, do you want to, I know you talked about it briefly in the budget presentation, but do you have any other information you want to share?
I should state that this was initially a 2012 issuance of $2,350,000. The city council had a process and adopted it at that time. Because we are having an early redemption, we are required, the city council adopt the attached resolution that identifies that we will be paying it off, and the date that we'll be paying off is January 11th. The city will be paying approximately, well, it will be paying $570,000. There are some additional costs that are associated with that to get this accomplished, but essentially the city will see a savings of approximately $20,000.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 24-2021, resolution calling for redemption of the outstanding general obligation crossover refunding bond series 2012A?
So moved.
Moved.
Councilmember Ball first, Councilmember Lillehei second. Competition up here.
I know.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Yes.
That brings us to number 7 on the agenda, which is to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Councilmember Bakken? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Wall. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, a meeting is adjourned. Thank
Merry
you, everybody, for
Christmas to
coming tonight.
everybody.